So you just started playing EVE Online and you have no idea what you're doing. Well, that's what I'm here for. Getting started and progressing doesn't have to be overwhelming. There's a lot to do in EVE, and even though you may have heard it takes a long time to do anything meaningful in the game, that's very much not the case. It's a lot of fun right off the bat. There's a lot of information out there, but the point of this guide is to provide you with everything you need to know to get started and feel confident in pursuing how you want to play the game. First thing you gotta know is what account you have. A lot of YouTubers will mention alpha clones, which just means it's a new account that's based on the free-to-play model. Omega clones are paid subscription accounts with some added benefits. So at the core of it, EVE Online is a spaceship game, and so knowing how to navigate is kind of important. So the first thing you can do is double left click anywhere and it'll move your ship towards that location. It'll first align itself and then start moving. The speed is here on the bottom, and you can left click to stop the ship here, or you can control spacebar to stop the ship as well. You can set full speed with this button. It'll start moving the ship in the direction it is facing, or you can also click within the meter to set a specific speed. You can also hold Q and double left click and it'll move your ship that way as well. The overview window is a very important window because it shows you everything within the current system you're in. If I left click this space station, this is called the Embod Moon 10 Pattern Tech School. This is the current space station right here. It'll show up within the overview tab, as well as all these other objects in space. There's also a Alert Mars Stargate in the current system right here. If I left click it, it shows up in the selected window box. The selected window box will have these different options to do. You can align to it, you can warp to it, you can jump to it, etc. Right now I'm going to right click it within the overview window and warp to it. Warping is another common method of traveling very fast to a location. And notice that in the distance section there's all these different kilometers as well as AU. AU means astronomical units. The difference between warping to something and jumping is warping will get you to a location within the current system, but then you have to jump through a Stargate or activation gate of some kind, and that'll bring you to like another system or another area in space. This is the Stargate that we just reached, and I can right click it here to jump through it, or I can also left click it up here, jump, or I can even right click it here in the overview and also jump. So multiple ways of jumping through the Stargate. If you select a station like the Embod Pattern Tech School Research Station, you can actually dock to it by just right clicking it and clicking dock, but I'm going to warp to it right now. While that's happening, let's go over the UI really quickly. I know it's boring, but it's important. There is the character sheet up here, the skills, which I'll go over later, the agency, which is kind of like the section where it shows you quests and things you can do. In this game it's called missions. There's mail, there's inventory. You can also Alt-C to open up the inventory. Personal assets shows you everything you have and own in the entire game, and also the location. This is the location and the items under it. And then wallet also shows transactions, all the transactions you've made recently. There's regional market, which we'll go over later as well. Fitting, which we'll also go over later, and all that good stuff. Map is also kind of difficult to get your head around, but you get more used to it when the more you progress through the game. So if you notice up here, this is where your current location is. I am currently in the Embod solar system, and the security status is 1.0. So the security status is pretty important. It represents how the police in the game, Concord, reacts to you. Anywhere from 0.5 to 1.0 is considered high security, where Concord will actively defend you. From 0.5, they're a little bit slower, and then once that gets to 1.0 security, then they'll be much faster at reacting to helping you. Anywhere from 0.1 to 0.4 security is considered low security, in which they will not defend you, but turrets will help defend you a little bit. Null security is 0. There's no government, there's no Concord, no police, no anything. When it comes to negative security, that means that you're considered a criminal by Concord and they will actively attack you. So once you're docked within a station, you're completely safe as long as you're in an NPC controlled station. No one can attack you as long as you're in a station. If you're outside in space, anyone can actually potentially attack you. So just remember that. And this is the inventory window. You can Alt-C, open it up. It looks kind of different than the one in space. And it has your current ship, it has the ship hangar, all your current ships in this hangar, and also the item hangar. You can click and drag any items in between your ship, item hangar, and back and forth. All of this stuff here is in your current station you're at. It's not anywhere else. Everything here is just in this station. Also, if you end up dying, you'll always be able to get a free complimentary Corvette, which is a mini ship, and I'm going to do that now. So just remember, you can always get a new Corvette anytime that happens. So what can you do in Eve? There are countless things, and I'm sure you've heard of grandiose stories of year-long wars and corporate espionage, but what fuels all of that is making money. The currency in the game is called ISK, Interstellar Credits, and we'll want to start off making a small base amount to build a foundation for what we want to do. So here are some common, easy ways for new players to start making ISK. There are mission agents, which is kind of like PvE combat or quests of doing certain tasks. And there's mining, which is very reliable in high security systems, but it's maybe a little bit slower, but we'll go over that a little bit later. And then there's also exploration, which is a little bit more complicated of a process. It is very unique to Eve, and I'll go over that as well. So now's a good time to check out the agency button right here. And we're going to go to Agents and Missions tab, and then under the Career Agents button, I recommend doing this because this is like the introductory tutorial quests or missions for new players. It teaches you some of the basics of doing certain paths. So for example, Enforcer teaches you how to do like combat. Industrialist is like mining. Explorer explores. Soldier of Fortune teaches you some like crowd control mechanics and like healing other ships type of mechanics. Industrialist is like mining and producing things. So one quick thing about accepting missions is that the agent that you start a conversation with has to be in the same station that you are located in. And oftentimes the career agents will be very close to your starting point. But for now, for example, I'm going to go back to the agents and missions and then mission agents, and then show how to just start a conversation with an agent that is located in the same station I'm in. So going to security agents, this is like a combat one. There is one that is one jump away, and I want to set the destination. And so what that means is it's going to put a destination waypoint in my route section here. And once I undock, so what this is saying is the agent that I just set the destination to, I'll have to go to that station and then start a conversation. So the waypoint is right here, and to move to this waypoint, I can actually right click here and then jump through that Stargate. So I'm going to go do that.
Warp drive active.
So once I arrive at the station, I'm just going to dock.
Docking permission requested. Docking request accepted.
So once I'm in the station that I just set the destination to with the agent that I want to talk to, I can now start the conversation. Start the conversation, and she'll give me a mission. And it's very important to read thoroughly through a lot of the mission text, because once I say accept this mission, it'll give me a kind of agent mission, kind of like if you come from other MMOs, it's like a quest log type of thing. And it tells you in general what to do next here, but it's not always 100% accurate in the sense that it kind of gives you a guide, but it's not going to tell you how to do it like A, B, C, D. So it's very important to read the mission text to make sure that you know exactly what the mission is about. When you're doing a mission and you're kind of lost and you don't have the window about the mission details, you can just click this question mark button, read details, and it'll pop up the text box. Let's say you finished your mission and you want to go back to your home base. So oftentimes what you can do is if you press Alt-E, you'll have these saved locations. So what you can do is whatever station you're in, if you do Control-B, it'll save that location into the Alt-E, the people and places window. So I'm not currently in a station, but what you can do is type like home station or whatever you want, and when you're docked in a station, that'll save that location, and you can always create a waypoint, set destination, or add waypoint. So this one I can set destination, and it'll set the destination under the route, and I can just right click it to jump through start gate, and it'll move me towards my home station that I saved under the people and places window. So the career agent missions for the Explorer are pretty important. I would recommend doing them because it teaches you mechanics about scanning, but I want to cover that a little bit here as well. So I mentioned earlier that the overview window shows everything within the system. However, that is incorrect. I lied. It shows you the big stations and the things you can use, like stargates and all those types of objects, but there's a specific range for the overview window when it comes to player ships or cosmic signatures. So the system itself is pretty large in that you can't really fly to the opposite side of the system in a reasonable time. You have to warp there, right? But there are things that are hidden within the system that in order for you to find them, you have to scan for them. You can use a probe scanner under here or a directional scanner. And both of these allows you to find things like players that are somewhere within the system that are not within range of your overview window, as well as things such as cosmic signatures. So if you notice here, cosmic signature is like the X, red X. That means it's undiscovered, and we would need to do the probe scanning method to be able to find that cosmic signature, discover it, and then be able to warp to it. So that's one of those things where it was confusing for me at first, but once you go through the Explorer tutorial, career agent missions, it helps you teach you how to do that and everything. But it's important to note that players, by the time they show up in the overview window, oftentimes maybe it's too late and you're already dead. So it's an important mechanic to be able to start learning how to directional scan for players, as well as using the probe scanner for being able to find whatever's within that system. So let's go over some ship fitting and market basics. So when you're docked, you can Alt F to open the ship fitting window, or you can click it here in the right button. And this is all the information of your ship stats. You can open these to take a look at them or close them. But right now we're going to look at capacitor. Capacitor just means that you can think of it like as a mana bar, where the more modules your ship is using, it starts using up the capacitor, and some items will use them over time repeatedly and use up capacitor usage. So if you run out of capacitor usage, some modules will not work anymore. If you look at CPU and power grid are limitations on your ship, and this is the maximum amount of modules that can fit in your ship that will require CPU and power grid usage. Cargo hold, amount of space your ship can hold. Drone bay is, you can think of drones as kind of like pets where you can command them to do things. Common ones are combat drones and mining drones, and some other ones are out there as well. Note that some ships will not have drone bays, meaning some ships you cannot use drones. This is the rig section. This is the high slot, mid slot, and low slot section. Every module you get will fit into a very specific slot, so you can double check to make sure that it fits in the right slot. Generally, high slot areas will include weapons or turrets or launchers. And what that means is turret hardpoints here and missile launcher hardpoints here. Missile or probe launchers. And notice how there are 3 high slots though, but there are 2 turret hardpoints. So meaning we can only fit 2 types of turrets here. This one can either be weapons, like these guns, or it can be mining turrets. So I'm going to click that and then just put a mining turret there. But notice how it fills up a turret's hardpoint. If I try to add another turret of any kind, it will block me from doing that. In general, high slots usually contain weapons or mining turrets. Mid slots usually contain things like afterburners, which increase the ship velocity. Also scanners and shield, things that affect the shield, your shield of your ship, or things that affect the armor of your ship. The low slots and the rigs generally contain upgrades for your different modules. Rigs, though, you have to be aware that rigs are kind of permanent to your ship, meaning if you remove it, then it will destroy the item. Now, if you click the info button of the ship, it'll show the ship's information. You can also right-click things and click Show Info. This is a very common window I will refer to many times. The ship itself will show under the tab, Traits tab, the general information and the role that the ship generally fits under. So each ship will have a kind of a specific role, and it'll have these different bonuses. Description tab, attributes. This is a very common tab to go through. It'll show you all the attributes like the speed of the ship, the volume. Inertia modifier just means the speed at which it turns. So and while traveling, and so the higher the inertia modifier, the slower it turns, and it'll show you all this information. Fitting tab. This is the tab that will allow. It shows you how much power or CPU you need, as well as like the turret hardpoints, as well as medium power slots, high power slots, etc. Requirements. This is the important window. This is the skills you'll need to be able to pilot this ship. Any ship will have the requirements tab show all the skills necessary. And then there's a couple different tabs here, but I'm not going to go into those right now. One quick thing to note too is that your race that you chose, I should have said this earlier, but it doesn't really matter because in the long term, because you can eventually train any race's ship and be able to pilot it. It'll just take skill points and skill and time, which I'll cover skills a little bit later. So let's open up the regional market with Alt-R or the regional market button here. And this will show you all the items you can buy and sell within the game. But the first thing you'll probably be looking for is the weapons. So if we go to ship equipment here, and then turrets and launchers will contain most of the weapons you have that are in the game. The most common ones that you'll come across in the beginning is the 5 main categories of energy turrets, hybrid turrets, missile launchers, projectile turrets, and then also drones, which is located in a separate section. So all the different weapon types have different characteristics, but some of the key things you're looking for is like obviously the DPS and the range, and whether or not it is using capacitor usage in your ship, because some weapons like energy turrets and hybrid turrets will use capacitor usage. If you take a quick look at one of them, go to the attributes and notice the activation cost. It uses 2.67 gigajoules for this weapon for capacitor usage. Your DPS will depend on both the weapon and the ammo you're using. So let's say, for example, we go to the projectile turret and then the autocannon. You can open up one of the small ones. You'll notice that there's a rate of fire that also affects the DPS, the damage modifier that affects the DPS, and also the range and also turret tracking. Turret tracking is fairly important in that the higher the turret tracking, the better it is of tracking your target when your target's moving fast, etc., and so you won't miss as many shots. The autocannon is a very short-range weapon. Accuracy fall-off is only 4.3 kilometers, but the optimal range is even shorter than that at 800 meters. So the autocannons are very short range, but they do a decent amount of damage. And so the damage modifier is what you're looking for with the rate of fire. And then if you go to the used with tab, this shows you all the different ammo types that this weapon uses. So just an easy example, let's just open up carbonized lead, and it'll tell you the attributes of the carbonized lead, as well as the range bonus and different tracking speed multiplier, and as well as the damage, the actual damage of things here. Another useful tool is if you go into here and then under utilities is the compare tool. The compare tool allows you to compare anything from ships to weapons, anything like that. And let's say we just throw it in here by clicking and dragging all this different type of ammo. You can compare all the different types of ammo, and you can take a look at let's say the base shield damage, base armor damage of all this ammo. There's also electromagnetic damage, explosive, kinetic, thermal, all that damage, range bonus, percentage, and tracking speed. So we're just filtering for all these, and we can compare all of the different type of ammo, all the damage, and all the stats. Now let's say I chose a light autocannon and I want to buy it. So I click on the item in the market, and this shows all the sellers and the buyers. What I'm looking for is sellers because I want to buy it, and whenever you buy or sell things, it always shows up at that station that you're buying or selling at. So notice that the station, what this means is that at this station, this is selling this amount of stuff for this price, and there are other prices for other stations that have this many amount of jumps away from your current station. So right now I'm gonna just buy, one of those, just as an example, and that will show up. Light autocannon will show up within the item hangar as soon as I buy it, if it's within the same station. If it's at a different station, I have to fly to it and then pick it up. Now let's say I wanted to actually buy it at a different station, and let's say it's one jump away. I want to buy that one. It's going to show up in that station, and I want to buy remotely, yes. If I wanted to find that item, I can actually go to personal assets and look for what I just bought. This is the Gatling gun, and I can set the destination and then fly to it and then pick it up. And then let's say I want to buy the ammo for it. I go back to the use with, go to the carbonized lead. I can right click it, view market details, and then the carbonized lead, all that will show up here. And then I can buy it from these different stations. Let's say I did that and I wanted to fit it to the ship. I just click and drag to it, as well as add the ammo to the slot. So I have some different ammo type right now. I can either click and drag it to the middle. Right now this ammo doesn't fit for that, but here's carbonized lead. Fit it, put it in the middle, and it'll fit whatever it is into the ship, all of the different weapons if I click and drag it to the middle. Notice here it'll say the damage per second and damage caused and the range. These are very important numbers to be aware of when you're in combat. And also, if you go to offense, it'll show you your total DPS across all your different weapons up here. One quick thing to note, this is a different ship, but these are different weapons here. There's 8 of them, and when you're in combat, you'll notice that there's different multiple weapons in the bottom of the screen when you're in combat, but you can also group all the weapons here, and then this will make it so they all attack at the same time and use only one button when you're fighting. So the last thing I want to cover is skills, and I didn't want to cover combat because I feel like it's fairly intuitive and the tutorial teaches you pretty well. The skill section is up here on the top left. And this is the queue. This is what I was currently training. I'm taking that off, but let's say we go to skill catalog. This shows you all the skills. There are my skills. You can train now skills, etc. You can search for ones. All the skills range from a whole bunch of different ones, from like being able to pilot a ship to using shields and armor mods to be able to use certain weapons like missile launchers, and there's ship maneuvering, there's marketplace mechanics, there's mining, there's a whole bunch of skills. There are skill plans that are certified plans. These are like what the game gives you right off the bat. You can dive into some of these and look into what you want to do. There are also personal plans you can do, but if you're lost, I would recommend finding a ship that you found, that you researched, and you feel like you want to start piloting that ship, and then start learning those skills to be able to pilot it. Just a reminder, it's under the requirements tab in the show info box for the ship requirement skills. And if you're really lost, you can also there's a general set of skills called the Magic 14, and this includes all the skills that apply to all ships and just very helpful all throughout just your entirety of the game. And so I'll link that in the description. One quick thing to note is that skill points are things you can buy or earn with real-world money that will speed up the process of being able to train something. So let's say I'm training something like light missiles 4 and 5, and I want to apply skill points. I have to pause it first and then apply the skill points. So if I were to apply the skill points, it would ask me how many points I want to use, and this just speeds up the process of training skills. If you end up buying an Omega subscription account, that multiplies the training speed by 2 times. And notice here that there are some skills that are highlighted in red, and what this means is that I'm missing the book for it, so you need to buy the book first and then you can start training the skill. Sometimes you can buy it in the marketplace, or sometimes you can buy it for sometimes more expensive just by directly buying it. If I click it here, It'll ask me to buy it, but if I check in the marketplace, sometimes it's less expensive. Yeah, so just be aware of that. Also, if you actually haven't created an EVE account yet and you're on the fence, you haven't actually started playing the game yet, I highly recommend using a referral code bonus because it gives you 1,000,000 unallocated skill points. That is a whole bunch of skill points, so use the referral code for a new account if you're a new player. Highly recommend it. I do have my own. I'll link that also in the description as well. So what do we do from here? So you've done the beginner agent, career agent missions, you've fought some ships, you've explored some things with scanners, you made some ISK, you've bought some new beginner frigates, and so what do you do from here? Well, the opportunity is endless, my friend. PvP, PvE, industry, exploration, climbing the corporate ladder, fitting out cool new ships, even scamming people. The world is your oyster. However, if you want a little guidance, I can recommend that you check out the agency, as everything's here. And Abyssal Dead Space is one of the encounters, and that is a PvE combat instance. You can think of them as instances where they require you to use things called filaments. Filaments are basically items that allow you to teleport to either a designated or a random area in New Eden. Filament looks like something like this. This is a tranquil filament. The tranquil ones are the tier 0, the easiest difficulty for Abyssal Dead Space. Abyssal Dead Space filaments allow you to teleport to the instance for the PvE mission. They're more challenging than standard missions because you either win and loot the items to your heart's content, or you die and lose your ship. Doing the very beginner ones, the tranquil ones, is a good amount of ISK, even more so than doing standard missions. Other things you can do also is try out the epic arcs. This is a little bit higher difficulty as well, but it's called the Sisters of Eve. This is like a quest line type of thing, like a mission line, where it's a little bit more difficult and also more ISK. Those are two different suggestions. Other than that, I would recommend looking up YouTube guides on how to make more ISK. Alright, good luck out there, Capsuleer. I hope we cross paths in New Eden.